Hey, algebra students. So today we're going to do notes for 4.2. This lesson is on writing equations in point slope form. So if you notice, point slope form is this equation here. So it's y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So that's called point slope form. It's an equation just like slope-intercept form is an equation. This is just an equation that we use when we know the slope and we know at least one point on the line. So the difference in the graphs that you're going to see today, if you notice this line, we can easily see the line. We can see 2 points on the line. And even though this line is going to continue in this direction, we can't exactly see where that line is going to cross the y-axis. So that is the information that we're missing today. So that's why we're going to have to use a different method. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first example. So it says you have the point -8, 3, and you have a slope of 1/4, and they want us to write the equation of the line in point slope form. So let's start by first just reminding ourselves what the equation looks like. So it's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. I would definitely recommend that you spend some time trying to commit this one to memory. That would be helpful. So over here with our point, remember the -8 is what we call our x sub 1. 3 is our y sub 1. And all I'm going to do is take those 2 points, I'm going to plug them in place of those values. And remember, slope is going to go in place of m. So go ahead and substitute your values. So y sub 1 is positive 3. And then our slope is 1/4. And then we have x minus, now our x value is negative, so it's x minus a -8. So you're going to have to be really careful with your signs here. So notice when you go ahead and simplify that, y minus 3 is equal to 1/4, and then this becomes x plus 8. Okay, so really be careful with your signs. We're going to stop there for right now. And so we're going to say that's your answer. And we're going to move on and look at some other examples. Okay, so let's take a look at this example right here in writing equations of lines given 2 points. Okay, so this is partly reviewed from yesterday. Remember, when you're given 2 points on a line, you can write the equation of the line using the following steps. So step 1 is going to be to find the slope of the line. And then in step 2, we're going to use the slope and one of the points to write the equation of the line in point slope form. Okay, now, interestingly enough, the directions are asking us to use the 2 points to write an equation, and then they want us to write the final equation in slope-intercept form. So we're going to have to go one step further. So let's start by completing step 1, which is to calculate our slope. So over here you can see our 2 points are 1, 2, and 3, -2. So those are the 2 points I'm going to use. So my change in y would be -2 minus 2, and my change in x would be 3 minus 1. And then if I subtract and simplify there, I have -2 minus 2, which is a -4. 3 minus 1 is 2, and then we want to simplify that, so that's -2. Okay, in step 2, it says I'm going to use the slope in one of the points to write it in point slope form. So I'm going to choose this first point here. You can use either. Sometimes you might want to pick the point that has doesn't have any negatives in it, just so it's a little easier. So using that first point, y minus y1 would be y minus 2. My slope is -2, and x minus 1. Okay, so that's step 2. Now, in order to change that into slope-intercept form, all I'm going to do here, I'm going to do one more step, and we're just going to distribute and solve for y. Okay, so you're just isolating y is all you're really doing. So y minus 2 is equal to -2x plus 2. Watch your integer rules there. And then I'm just going to add 2 to both sides. And so my final answer, which I'm going to write right under my graph here, is y equals -2x plus 4. Okay, and there's the equation of my line written in slope-intercept form, and I'm ready to continue moving on. So go ahead and turn your page, and we're going to look at example 3. Okay, so in example 3, I'm writing a linear function. So it just means we're really doing the same process we just used. The only difference is when I finish up, instead of using a y equals equation, I want to use an f of x equation. So again, as review from yesterday, when it says f of 4 equals -2, remember that's a point on the line for -2. And when it says f of 8 equals 4, that's a second point on the line 8, 4. So those are the 2 points that I'm using to write the equation of my line. So remember, step 1, over here we're going to calculate our slope given the 2 points. So m equals 4 minus -2 would be my change in y. My change in x is going to be 8 minus 4. And then simplify there. 4 minus -2 is 6. 8 minus 4 is 4. And then I'm just going to simplify that fraction to say 3/2. And that's in simplest form, so I'm going to keep moving on. Step 2 is to take one of those 2 points and write the equation of the line and point slope form. So I'm going to choose this first point here. So I'll choose 4, -2. You can choose either, it doesn't matter. So y minus y1 would actually give me, now I'm just doing some sign work in my head. So y minus -2 becomes y plus 2. This saves me a little bit of work. And then my slope is 3/2. And then x minus 4. And I'm going to distribute in step 3. So y, come on, plus 2. And then 3/4 times x. And then when you distribute here, 3/4, sorry, not, oh, I just wrote that wrong. I realized that, so I got to fix that. It's not 3/4, it's 3/2. Okay, so let me fix that real quick. So that should be a 2. And then 3/2 x. And then if I do 3/2 times 4, 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. And then I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So my final answer here would be y equals 3/2 x minus 8, which I'm just going to come up here and finish writing my function. So it's f of x equals 3/2 x minus 8. And that's my final answer. Okay, I'm going to ask that you continue moving on to the real life application, and you'll come back to the on your own in just a moment, okay? So our real life application problem says the student council is ordering customized foam hands to promote school spirit. The table shows the cost of ordering different number of foam hands. Can the situation be modeled by a linear equation? If so, explain. If possible, write a linear model that represents the cost as a function of the number of foam hands. Well, this actually goes back to our first unit, actually our first or second unit, when we were talking about what makes something a function. So first of all, let's look at what they're asking us to do. So the first thing they want to know is, can the situation be modeled by a linear equation? So we're looking at change in x and change in y. So if I look at my x values, I can see that each time we're adding 2. And if I look at my change in y, I can see that each time I'm adding 12. So the answer to question 1 is yes, because there is a constant rate of change. Okay, so because we said yes, we have to go ahead and write the linear function. So I'm going to start for step 2. That's this part here. So it said, if possible, write a linear model. So for step 2, the first thing I'm going to do is find my slope using any 2 points on the line. And of course, it's probably going to be easiest just to pick those first 2 points. So we have 434 and 646. So my change in y is 46 minus 34. My change in x is 6 minus 2. And we really just did this up above. So we said change in y is 12. change in x is, I do that right? I'm sorry, this should be a 4. That's why it didn't make sense to me. So that's a 4. So that's 2. And that gives me a slope of 6 if I simplify that. Okay, using the process we learned above, I'm going to pick one of the points, and again, just the first one because it's probably going to be easiest. And I'm going to use the slope of 6, and I'm going to start by writing that in slope-intercept, sorry, not slope-intercept, point slope form. So y minus 34 is equal to 6 times x minus 4. And then I'm just going to take that equation from point slope form and I'm just going to put it into slope intercept form. So y minus 34, over here I'm going to distribute. So 6x minus 24, adding 34 to both sides. I get y equals 6x plus 10. Okay, so let me go back up here and make sure we've answered the question, but I believe it just asks us to write a linear model. It does say write it as a function, so you can always say f of x equals 6x plus 10, but I believe that should be enough to answer the question. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to remind you to go back and answer the on your owns, and then you can check those before you start on your assignment for the evening. Have a great night.